Hey guys, it's Matt. I'm up at 4 in the morning thinking about certain things. I think I might as well just come in and make a video. I don't know if this will come out correctly, but I might as well just at least take a shot at it, and it can always be revised and refined later. So it has to do with the only forms of solutions, or the only form solutions can come, is what I was thinking about. That said, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get back to sleep. So let's just let's just forget that for a second and go back to 2 videos ago. I had an Examining the Not Nilg podcast, and the more I thought about that video, I didn't mention the words graduation in the video, but that's kind of what it was, a graduation, or a realization that, okay, we're in a certain place now. Um, well, Matt, don't you want to know the who, what, when, where, why, and how of how they pulled this off, or how they pulled that off? And 2 videos ago was a graduation where we were like, no, 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 we don't, we understand, a final realization, a complete realization of step 2 in the 3-step process, that for all of this to be have been pulled off, especially with everybody around us going along with it and believing all of it, the world isn't very real. Now, what exactly that means, we will have a differing of opinion, of course, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Um, Almost everybody here has reached that graduation point from 2 videos back, and it's just a moving on, saying we don't need to examine the who, what, when, where, why, and how, these elements anymore. But the most important part of that is the reality itself, and the minions on behalf of the reality itself desperately want us stuck there, examining that level of the screen. It's akin to the analogy I've put out in the past about, it trains us in this truth community to be a hunter of wabbits, a hunter of wabbits. We get our rifle and we go out off. It's kind of like hi ho, hi ho, off to work we go to hunt the what happened in this fake event, what happened over here, and the basis of 2 videos back, or the solution was half of the general solution I'm going to talk about here. It was worry about yourself. She says, little girl says, you're here to use the tools this reality affords to get yourself in order, not to go figure this out and then try to bring this truth onto your second cousin. Worry about yourself, the little girl said. But that's worry about yourself is only half of this general solution, or the only place a solution can come are in these 2 general areas. And of course, this will need to be refined. I just woke up, was thinking about some things, figured I needed to make a video. So the 2 videos back was a graduation video. We don't need to study the elements anymore. We're not going to study the elements anymore. And more importantly, that's what it wants. It wants us to hunt the rabbits. It wants us to go off, hi ho, off to work we go, and we'll figure out this fake event today. That's what we're going to do. And then I had put forth the idea as to how the reality operates. That if we just did the secondhand lions, the two guys, one was Michael Caine and the other old actor, and just sit up on the porch. We're not going to hunt today or ever again. And the rabbit would kind of poke out from the forest, and then he would try to get our attention. Ooh, stick his head out. Don't you want to shoot this? You know? And then eventually the rabbit would probably come up and, I've gone through this analogy several times, run through our legs, jump on our lap, and come on, hunt me, hunt me. It's right, you're right here. No, no, thank you. No, thank you. The little girl in that video, actually, she says, no, thank you. No, thank you. She says, the father says, can I help you with that, with the seatbelt? No, thank you. Worry about yourself. Um, so it's going to come and try to get in our face. So obviously, we know what it wants, and the most basic solution of all, of course, is to, everything here is inverted in 179.5 degrees. It wants us to go hunt, so we don't hunt. It wants us to think this, so we don't think this. It wants us to join camps, camps along 1,000 different lines, to further create a fractal or fragment of further duality. No, we don't join camps. You know, so that's the very basis, the basics. I mean, but 2 videos back was a graduation video. Okay, we're here. Okay, what does this mean? Where the heck are we? Okay, so once we're here, then the solution. What's the movie? It might be. Is it? It might be Tom Cruise in Cocktail when he's complaining. He's like, nothing in these books or anything I learn can be applied to the real world. It's like Bentley. His teacher was Bentley from the Jeffersons, and I think the other older bartender says, "Well, once you've learned that nothing in these books is useful, now you're ready to graduate." And that's where we are from 2 videos back. We're not no reason to chase anymore. The general consensus that we all share on our graduation diploma is we will differ and disagree in certain areas, but this place isn't very real. The extent of all this couldn't have been pulled off. Okay, the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities by themselves, it's not possible. Even if Abraham Lincoln, well, Matt, if Abraham Lincoln was a fictitious character and history has been presented fictitiously, well, they could have molded his narrative to fit Kennedy. Even that, if Abraham Lincoln was a fictitious character, even that, molding that history into a real history, quote, real history, would be just impossible scale to pull off. This place isn't very real. We know that. Okay, so any solution has to take that into account, that this place isn't very real. So the solutions as we move forward have to be twofold. All right, they have to be in a personal area first. Okay, yes, and this the personal area, and what can we do now to improve this world, this earth, this matrix, whatever you think it is. Come here, Czar. What can we do now to improve it? Now, the first part I think is far more important. It's to worry about yourself. That's the first part of the solution, and I think the more important part of the solution is, okay, I see the traps and tricks of this place, and there's certain paths here that it wants me to choose. The obvious things we've been over many times. The obvious path of materialism, the obvious path of the debauchery, of all the things that this place presents, where it wants us to lose ourselves in that place. There must be a consequence for that, or why would it dangle all its carrots for us to constantly, pursue if there wasn't a consequence for completely making the wrong choices in this place? I still believe there is a consequence. I disagree with some other smart people there. Like an Alan Watts would say, you're just here having an experience, and I don't know, they work so hard to get us to do certain things that, well, is it just about providing them energy, louche, sustenance, or is there a consequence if we get it wrong? It doesn't really matter, because most of us will err on the side of, well, yeah, we can never be sure, so we're going to live our lives like there could be a consequence. So the first part of the solution is a personal solution, where essentially, I need to use this reality in this place to get myself in a certain place, so at least for whatever, for fill in the blanks. Okay, someone might say, so you're not recycled back here again. Okay, fine. That's on the table. I don't put a whole lot of stock in Saturn Moon Matrix, but I was watching, somebody sent me Wes Penray, Wes Penray video. I've covered, I watched his stuff. I never covered him specifically. I watched his stuff a few years back, and I said, yeah, we should check this out. And the section, or his presentation talked about, the false light at death, and let me click this off. Sorry, guys. The false light at death, and the person that sent me the email was basically like, we don't know if this is true, but why not be aware of it? How can it hurt? Um, and the basis of Wes's presentation, many of you have come across his stuff over the years, is similar to and I know I'm straying. I'll try to bring all this together in a moment. Similar, actually, I was thinking, to the presentation of the great beyond in the Disney movie Soul. He's basically saying that it is a false light, and this is not the basis. And I rarely go here, and I don't want to really go here. This is not my area, but it's relevant here. He says it is kind of a false light. Family, friends, pets, will draw you into a false light. Fake family constructs, fake constructs of pets. You may be in a netherworld between life and death, and going into the light, even as beautiful, as wonderful as it feels, will potentially recycle you back. He'd say, find there's a void or a way out beyond the light. And the only reason I guess I'm really mentioning it is because the movie Soul, as the little soul is going up the escalator. I didn't talk about this during the movie review, but it didn't really hit me till after, and especially when I was watching this one video, Wes Penray, if I'm getting that name right, I apologize if I'm not. He they're all the souls are just really can't wait to get up into the great beyond the light, and then they get bug zapped. Remember, I mentioned that in the movie review. It was kind of a negative thing. It wasn't like this beautiful harp music as they go into the light. It was like zap zap. All the little souls go zap 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 zap, like a bug zapper. And that the negative, there was a maybe on purpose negative feeling to that. But just somebody watching Soul, the movie Disney Soul, at the first level, the popcorn cruncher, it wasn't like ominous, like, well, why are they presenting it like that? It just was like zap, zap, zap. The first level person watching the movie wouldn't take any negative away from that. And maybe I'm taking a negative away where it's not there. But nevertheless, what it shows is the little soul of Joe didn't want to go into the great and beyond, and it was up to him to not go. So this is similar to Wes's presentation. He just went down the escalator the wrong way, and he examined how to get off the escalator. Eventually, fell through some who knows what it was, some sort of trap door. Went through different levels, which could be a truth drop related to people that study this realm. You study that scene in Soul. But he got out. He did not. There's the light, and he said no. So that is very similar, but way too much straying on something that's not the heart of this video. So remember, any solution that we come up with now that we've graduated, okay, it's twofold. That's just what we just looked at. There was just one of many personal solutions. Someone might say, okay, how much time basically do I have left to live? And the reality and the minions want me distracted for a reason. They want me living my life in a certain way. And I'm going to use every tool that's available to me here to, again, guys, you're just doing this on the fly. These new age words like ascend or get yourself into a certain place, level up. Whatever it may be, the concept I'm trying to get across to you. Even if the words that are coming out of my mouth aren't great, you understand what I'm saying. Saying, wait a second, it wants me here in life to do this, which is just a complete Ryan Seacrest waste of time. So it relates back to the video, or what's now an appendix in the book, the last conversation you had before life, the last conversation you had before entering this existence, related to the first conversation after a failed life existence. And I think the concept is presented in both. The demonic character in the first conversation after a failed life experience is basically like, you had that experience on Earth. You didn't have what you need. It gave you every tool you needed, including the hardships. You didn't see the hardships as a tool. It gave you every possible tool and little clue. It gave you that hardcore Earth experience, gave you so much, and all you did was just worry about what the Matrix said you should worry about, and you should worry about yourself. So there's so many things this world gives us, and this is only half of the solution. But to me, the more important part to say, okay, what is the very basic or first step of, if you do all of these things right for yourself, well, your goal might be like, I want to get out of here. I want to choose where I want to go on the day of my life, on the day of my death. There's no way, if there's any chance I'm going to be recycled back here, I'm going to prepare myself, so that's just off the table. That's not going to happen. There are obviously other reasons to live life a certain way for your own spiritual betterment than to just your whole life about avoiding Saturn Moon Matrix. That's just one thing to keep on the table. So the reason you came here is to use the tools of this place in the right way. Right now, we'll talk about that in the future. We've talked about that in the past, and if getting it right for yourself is, to me, the much more important part. However, okay, the second part of the solution is something I haven't talked about much at all. But in the second part of the solution, meaning, all right, well, I'm 50, and I have, according to the mortality tables, and even if you don't believe the mortality tables, I look around at my family, and they generally pass at a certain age. I have probably, similar to my family, a certain amount of time left here. And I don't want to spend my time, whatever's left here, in some sort of 1984 style Orwell, Soylent Green, dystopian slave system. I mean, we don't, but this is actually the less important part than the personal part. All right. No matter how bad it gets, and I don't even like it, this part of the solution relates to consciousness reflecting reality. So that's not even, how many, just the fact that I put that in your mind. This is kind of the basis of the solution, is to not take that stuff into your mind. But nevertheless, you're bombarded with this sort of C news all the time. It's not like I just did something. So the point, no matter how many of these measures they're able to push onto the earth, and they've done more than we thought they could ever have possibly have accomplished a year ago. We didn't, even those that study truth or whatever, we didn't think they were able to do this. We of course, the NWO system, it's here, it's always been here. But almost none of us would have said it could have pulled this off to this extent, at least where we are now. But the personal, the conversation, the first conversation after a failed life experience, one of the parts of that conversation would be like, why were you so, this existence was walking into a closet for a second and walking out. It's a blink of a blink of a blink of a blink, a fraction of 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 1 second compared to all that ever was and all that ever will be. So if you do have to live your next 30 or 40 years in a Soylent Green, Charlton Heston type movie, is that really that important? If you still can use this place for spiritual enhancement and betterment. See, it's not a big deal, even if it does look like 1994 out your window. But the second part of the solution is to try to do everything we can to avoid that. In the end, again, I'm kind of being repetitive. The personal side is more important. So the first conversation after a failed life experience, my last they brought this C thing, and then the whole world went into lockdown for 35 years. It was like, well, so that existence was like nothing. It was like a joke. It was like a 1/1000th of a millisecond. But you could have learned so much there. But all you did was complain that the rest of your life looked like Soylent Green. Like, you see how, in the scheme of things, if you back up far enough, it's not that important. If you believe you're more than this existence, it doesn't. Fine if it's some sort of torture and you're strung up, with arms and legs tied for 30 years, some sort of demonic torture. That's pretty bad, but It's like, oh, I have to wear a mask when I go to Wawa, and when I go to Wawa, there's unlimited food choices, and any the one Wawa by itself offers food choices that 99% of kings and that surpasses what 99% of all kings and queens that have ever lived on Earth have had access to. It's not that bad when you back up far enough. If you use it as a learning experience, but nevertheless, I don't want to live in Soylent Green. I don't. So this is the second part. The second part of the solution that obviously needs to be worked out. I'm not going to be able to drop some sort of magic key in this video, but the second part of the solution, it relates to this basic premise. Okay, 2 videos back, we've graduated. Not studying all the elements, we now know that's exactly what it wants us to do. That's the energy it wants us to feed it. This is how the truth community has been used to prop up this system, to give power to the creeps and the a-holes. So, okay, so solutions is that it gets back to, this is a truth drop in my opinion. It's, if you look into it closely, oh, that's attributed to Einstein. Bull crap. This is something the system pulled forth as a truth drop, like the Declaration of Independence and all men are created equal, and all the truth drops that flow through music and movies. The consciousness that created the problem can never solve the problem. Matt, that Einstein said that. Really? Did he? I mean, Einstein did. Is that a, what is Einstein? Right? Is that just a caricature, a mouthpiece for the system? It might be. It's attributed to him. It doesn't matter to me. It's a truth drop. The reality has to give real spirits here clues all over the place, like the demonic character talking to the person after the failed life experience was like, what more did you want the reality to do? The demonic character was like, you idiot, you got this clue, you got that clue, you had fake events, bang events that could never have been pulled off in a real world. You had people debating things like planes, no planes for 10 years. How is that possible in a real world? We gave you thousands of things you could have latched on to, the demonic character, you idiot, to say that to come to the conclusion that the world isn't very real. So that's part of the graduation in step 2. Step 1, my 3 steps. Step 1 is, basically a screen analysis. And that's okay as long as you move on to step 2 and say, this, no normal reality could pull this off time after time. And then, of course, step 3. Well, why is it trying? What does that say about me? Why is it trying to get me to bring my energies and attention to it all the time? Why is it trying to constantly hypnotize me to do something? Well, I must be pretty powerful. I must be a pretty badass spiritual being if it's constantly getting in my business all the time, getting in my face and begging me and hypnotizing me to do something. So any solution is not, it has to be the opposite of the consciousness that created the problem, that can't be used to fix the problem. So that gets into all the first grade truth or solutions, like going to protest in Washington, or we see this now so clearly that that's the consciousness that created the problem, being used to fix the problem. Or if I'm not quoting that right, who cares? You know what I mean? You've heard it before. Let's go petition our masters with signs, and this gets right back to the Q stuff, that ridiculous QA whatever crap that people followed. That the do you understand? And people here, of course, do, but I don't think very much of this truth community does. That sealed indictments. So let me get this straight. You want to use, so it's a demonic system that was set up and a completely, a very dark element created these systems and society, and so you want to use their systems, the criminal justice system, justice for criminals. You want to use their systems to punish the people that created it, and then see, the system itself is bigger than is the evil. Then you want to put good people back in those systems, back into Congress and different parts, and all the sealed indictments. Everybody can go to jail, and it'd be great. We can watch Hillary marching through the streets in chains, like the Walk of Shame, the naked Walk of Shame for Cersei in Game of Thrones. But actually watching Cersei was naked walking through the streets of Westeros or King's Landing. That wasn't so bad to look at, but did I put that Hillary in your brain in that same sort of thing? That's something you can't unsee. But no, let's just say she's clothed. Oh yay! Look, there she goes off to jail. That's what it would want. The pickup truck army racing it down to DC in protest. That's exactly what the system would want. So there is no physical solution. There is no physical solution. And the most important part of the solution is to, are you really at can you are you getting yourself to the realization that consciousness came first? Okay, this is the heart of, I believe, the only possible solution that will affect the world as we know it for the rest of our lives, which to me is, that's 1/100th. 99 out of 100 is getting yourself right spiritually and using, even if hardship comes, using that to better yourself, or whatever shit scenario comes. That's, to me, is much more important. But I don't want to live in a Soylent Green world. So, but the only solution in this area that will affect the outside world, as crazy as it sounds to a lot of people, is can only come after there's a complete understanding that consciousness comes first over physical reality. I am thoroughly convinced of this at this point, but I am 100% convinced that any solution that in any way involves their systems or physical, okay? And I'm sorry, I'll get into this some other time. This does relate to petitioning different forms of government for your own, to cut yourself up from your straw man and all that. I'm not going to go there, but any sort of solution for yourself in this existence, maybe cutting yourself off for the straw man will help in a certain way where you're not going to get a certain tax burden. That's fine if you're going to pursue it like that. But in terms of spiritual work, the only reason we're here, petitioning government in some way to release me from my legal fiction, that doesn't concern me. That's a little tiny activity inside the snow globe, where my spiritual self is much more than this. But the solution to potentially fixing the world is never going to come using its own systems or in a physical sense. It has to come, in my opinion, through the understanding that consciousness came first, and all stems from that. And this does relate. If the person that just sent me a certain podcast, this does relate to those good ideas. I hope to speak to him this week on the phone. But these are, in other words, if it sounds like I'm stealing certain concepts, I've been talking about these things for a long time. Your recent podcasts have helped me, but consciousness comes first. This is not the first time I've said these sorts of things, and I've been thinking about this particular solution for a long time. So just I know I'm all over the place, guys. These are really very difficult, big topics. So what does that mean in terms of solution? Well, there's no way we're going to get to a consensus here. So let me just throw it out. Something I've been thinking about for a few months is called glitch the matrix. Glitch the matrix. Okay. If consciousness comes first, and have you ever heard me, guys? Have you ever heard me say, that the screen presents an idea, the minions are there to cement the idea, that ultimately consciousness has to harden the cement? That's real consciousness then is used to create reality. I said, the Fabian socialists can't mold it themselves with their little anvil and their little stained glass. They need consciousness, real people, to do it. So the solution can only come in that way, and that's very, very complicated, and it can only work if a certain critical mass of people believe that consciousness actually does cement, harden the cement on reality. But the place to start, we have to just put our big toe in the water. You can't just jump. I'd like to jump in, but we don't know exactly how to jump in yet. But I think glitch the matrix is an idea I've been kicking around for a while, and per the what I've been thinking about recently, and per this podcast that I've listened to, of which I hope to speak to this individual this week, this is the best place, in my opinion, to start. Glitch the matrix. Now, just for now, for those skeptics listening to me, just assume that there is nothing physical and consciousness came first. If you see the Mandela effect, if you are Mandela affected, this is, you don't need to see anymore. I mean, this is proven. Reality can't just change if it's real at all. But if you're not Mandela affected, I know this is a little bit harder for you, but there's different things you can latch on to, like the double slit experiment that certain percentage here, are skeptical of. But there are other things to latch on. The Rice experiment. How is it possible? And it comes out every time the same way when real consciousness performs the Rice experiment. You hang over the rice for 6 weeks, and you hate this rice. You've seen it on YouTube, and this rice you love, and this rice you don't pay any attention to. And everybody says the rice you love is white and fluffy, and the rice you hate is all moldy. And how is that possible? That by itself, okay, that proves consciousness, related to mind, and the power of you affects the world. Now, there's the double slit experiment. There's all sorts of different those podcast that was sent to me. He actually says he believes the Mandela effect is created by basically consciousness in the truth community. And of course, some people would say they're pulling too many realities and levers and CERN and all that. We don't know what's creating the Mandela effect, but it's an interesting concept. He's saying consciousness actually in the truth community is actually glitching the matrix and causing the Mandela effect. But the solution that I wanted to talk about here is about, let me just, again, this is so difficult to get out, guys. Let me just go back to the absolute basics. This isn't coming out right, but on the fly at 4 something in the morning. Glitch the matrix. Okay, let me just give you the example that I thought about probably a month and a half, 2 months ago. It would be every single time that the reality wants to put you, sync you to something, like the way it absolutely uses clocks and time to sync the collective onto that. It uses time. Every time it presents something where you can do something else or something else that you prefer, then glitch the matrix and don't choose what it wants to give you. My example that came up recently was what they tell you, and this is so trivial, I know, guys, but this is one. We could potentially come up with thousands of these, and that could start to glitch the matrix if we believe it will. What they tell you winter is. They tell you winter is this date in December to this date in March. Does it exactly? I don't know. It does. I don't think it exactly lines up with the solstice. It doesn't matter to me. And the reason I was going here was they were saying we were getting a giant. It happened maybe 3 weeks ago in Philadelphia up through Boston. We got what could have been a massive snowstorm, but here it was like 6 or 7 inches of snow, and then we got a bunch of ice and sleet. But I thought, so we're getting that, and it's not even officially winter yet. And I said to myself, I never like their dates for winter. You know what winter is to me? Winter to me is December, January, and February. And then spring to me would be March, April, May. And then I said, for some reason I started thinking, this is what my winter is going to be. I don't care what they say winter is. Winter to me is the months of December, January, and February. And then I kind of thought, all right, what if like every single time, if 100 million people said, I'm not on that reality that you're assigning to me, or then you tell all your coworkers, oh, it's the first day of winter. It's like they need these little markers. It almost seems to everybody. They're trying to put everybody into a collective here. of course, and one of the main reasons one of the main ways they create that is through time itself, and everybody synced to a clock. That is a huge tool of these a-holes that I haven't yet to explore. Very few of us have explored, but it relates to Howdy McCoskey came at some point. I don't know, he was in Mexico or came across somebody that was an elder or a shaman or was related to had relatives that were these types of mystics, and the guy like said one thing to me. He said there was no time before the European white man came, something like that. He's like there was no time. And Howdy's like, I didn't know I didn't pursue with him. I didn't ask him anymore. He's like, what do you mean? There was no clocks. There was no, but he was like, there was no time, and Howdy regrets not asking him a little bit more. But no doubt that one of the huge ways they create a collective that reflects consciousness, reflects back on the screen, that creates the reality. So, any chance? What if we got 100 million people at some point? Is 100 million people around the world potentially going to wake up? We have much, much fewer numbers now, but potentially the reality is so absurd, we'll get 100 million people at some point. The folks that are zombified continue to be zombified, and there's a lot of people we won't be able to get, and that's fine. Worry about yourself. But if 100 million people said like these little things, like, yeah, that's not winter. Winter to me is December, January, and February. Well, does that mean climates are going to change, or it's going to affect the weather? No, but you get the sense the Matrix doesn't like that. It creates consensus, it creates collectivism. So, the best analogy for these types of little glitches in the Matrix is Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows, I guess the last one. And for those that haven't seen it, I'll describe it. Voldemort. Can you say that? You can't say it in Harry Potter movies. It's really, he could come get you, like the Krampus. He's standing with his army of evil witches and whatever they are and orcs, and the over Hogwarts they created this. People would say that the people that study the shape of the earth, they created this dome of force field of some kind using some spell, and they're going to break through it, the Voldemort and his army. And they basically just again, it's 4 Sunday morning, guys. I need to be a little bit better here to keep this video down and I don't lose your interest. They all put their wands up and they just shoot these individuals in Dungeons and Dragons called magic missiles, like these little balls of light, but tens of thousands of these little balls of light, each coming individually out, and then they land on the Hogwarts protective dome, and like little crack, little. So you can tell when you're watching the movie that this dome isn't going to hold. I mean, there's like millions of these little. It's being bombarded, and I thought, okay, if one little guy that's with Voldemort sends this little magic missile, it's like a sparkler, onto the dome. The dome's like, it would be like a little mosquito biting an elephant. But if millions and millions of these little things, when you're watching the movie, like, oh, they're going to crack that dome. And what if millions and millions of us every day glitch the Matrix? See where I'm going here? Now, to do this, if you have a sense that, Matt, I don't think, I'm not so sure consciousness came first, and if you're there's no way any of it will work. You have to come the 2 videos back, the graduation video. You have to. Well, okay, you might say, well, Matt, I'm ready to graduate out of studying the who, what, when, where, why of the next fake event that they propose, or the who, what, when, where, and why of how they get huge amounts of Aquanet and hair products up to the ISS. I'm not going to study that anymore. And the guy on the wire was put there on purpose so we'd see the guy on the wire. It wasn't a leak. Oh my, they have an emergency meeting with Elon Musk. There's a guy on a wire. We leaked that out and all the truthers are latched on it. Well, if you see it, they wanted you to see it. See how that works? That's how that works. So it's like people would say, well, I'm not gonna study that stuff anymore, but I'm not quite there. Some might say that consciousness came first, and if you're okay, but do what you need to do. Do what you need to do, because this will only work if you walk in a complete what this person said in the podcast, not belief, knowing. I know Crow has said that. And knowing is the enemy of belief, is the enemy of knowing. If you're like unsure, "Well, I'm not sure consciousness came first," then this stuff won't work. Okay, this has no chance of working. But how do you these little things like, again, some 2-bit little example that saying that's not winter. I'm going to tell reality what winter is. Winter's December, and of course that's nothing. It's one, but if we get millions and millions and millions of these little things from millions and millions of people, again, the Hogwarts dome being bombarded, the Matrix being bombarded. Um, this is the goal, and there's a lot of ways you can't get to here unless you get to the knowing that consciousness came first. This is complete. Physical is a complete illusion. This is a dream reality. This is Maya of some kind. 100% belief that the creeps and the minions need those of us with real souls, spirits, real consciousness to reflect back and cement the reality. Only if you get there are these little glitch in the matrix practices worthwhile. So you have to get there first, but there's a lot of ways to get there. First off, if you're Mandela affected, you're there. Okay, you're there. Okay, whether it be a dash in a Kit Kat, or the moving of Australia 1,000 miles north, or Papua New Guinea squished into Australia now, where a guy could row a boat, literally row a boat with the right tide from Papua New Guinea to Australia. A lot of Mandela affected people are like, that thing was way down and by itself, and someone was like, I'm watching this from Australia, it was never there. Well, that's not the way the Mandela effect works. You can't be like, I live in Australia, it was never south. Well, yeah, I mean, that's not the reality most people have, and that's not the way the Mandela effect works. You're not going to, if I see, if you build it, they will come. Well, then if you say he will come, well, that's always been reality. That's just as valid. There's no right and wrong answer. But if you're Mandela affected anyway, no real world could do that. It's just, so if you're Mandela infected anyway, you're already here. You're already here. Give up the fact that the world is real, the ME by itself. But there's other ways if you're not affected. Do a rice experiment. Just watch 2 or 3 YouTube videos on the rice experiment, or a Dr. Emoto experiment, whatever you can. The rice is the easiest one for people to do at home. If your rice is white and fluffy, the one you hated is black, then you affect reality. It's that simple. There's no other explanation that consciousness then affects reality. What else is it? The little blue people came in and put Clorox bleach on the well, that would make the rice even whiter. They put the cat poop in the one bowl of rice in the middle of the night while you were sleeping, the way Krampus and Santa Claus comes into the house, and somebody messed with the experiment. No, consciousness did the rice experiment. That by itself, it's all you need to see. Then you could go on to these type of glitch the matrix solutions. Anybody screaming at this video like, well, what happens if we glitch the matrix? Well, we'll talk about that. I don't know, but it's better than this, isn't it? It could be if there's a reality overlay and all these weird things people talk about. Well, what if that went away and there's no more frog? It's a prince. The frog's gone. It just evaporated. Who knows? Who knows? But ways to glitch the matrix. This is what the comments section should be about. But I'm so late in saying this is what the comments section should be about. The comments won't be about this. We'll do another video with just this. How do we glitch the matrix? Comments only. Somebody might say, just completely do not use a watch or clock unless you have to catch a flight or something. Just completely remove time as much as possible. That, in some innate sense, that creates something that it's kind of like, it's the best way for us to do it, guys. We don't know exactly what to do, so the best way to do it would be like, to lob a million little magic missiles at Hogwarts' dome, or to take out the foundation. So when we understand what is the foundation of this sick matrix control system, one of the foundations of this sick matrix control system is collectivism, having everybody sync up to the same BS. And is there any greater way they do this than time? So if a million people had the ability to just almost never look at a watch again, what would the effect be on the matrix? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's relatively small, because billions would still be looking at their watch every hour on the hour. But would the Matrix be like, ooh, there's a little, we don't like what's going on over here? I don't know. At some point, is there a breaking point? Um, I'm talking about the general solutions. I don't have. We need to do a video just on how do you. I do like the idea, although it's a tiny little thing, of saying no, that's not winter. The winter. I'm not going to go by your what you tell me winter is. Winter to me is December, January, February. Millions and millions of people, all with a different definition of winter. You see, you can kind of get a sense how that Matrix ain't gonna like that, because it's about collectivism. Is that going to put a big ozone hole in the Matrix? I don't think so, not by itself. But can we get, a bombardment of the Hogwarts dome, just millions and millions and millions of real people, um, doing this, and I don't. There's something to it, guys. There's something to it, but it only can come. It only can come after the graduation of two videos back saying I'm not going to pursue the elements anymore. That's exactly what it wants. It wants me out hunting rabbits. And then the, I don't know if it seems to be related to Santos Bonacci's All is Atum. I think that's what that means, but I still don't exactly understand that. But just like, okay, consciousness came first. There's a reason. See, beyond the Rice experiment, like how do you get a full knowing that consciousness came first? And then if that's the case, then you affect reality with your consciousness. So there's talk about, and we need to put in the comments, different ways to get there. The Rice, if you're Mandela affected, we said the Rice experiment is a way to get there. But there's just a common sense. There's a few common sense ways to get there, related to my favorite, comment. I've said too much. Getting in our business. I'm not going to do it with the accent again in this video anymore. It's Danny whatever in Triple X, Vin Diesel's Triple X. He's we don't like funny guys getting in our business. He's like, that smells like real blood. He's got a machete in his face. Whatever. The Vin Diesel Triple X is actually a pretty fun movie. And there's a huge truth drop scene, whether it was meant to be or not, probably wasn't, but I use it as a truth drop. The diner scene, when he's like, I don't play this game anymore. Like that's what we have to do. It's one of my favorite scenes because of how it really is. It should be our attitude. The local newsman, Jim Gardner, Action News, Philadelphia. The official day of winter is next Tuesday. No, I don't play that. We're already in December. We're in winter. Glitch the Matrix. Matt, it's pretty pathetic. Like, we need millions and millions of ways to glitch the Matrix. You keep coming back to some small pathetic example. Okay, have some work to do. But yeah, as long as is there any merit in what I'm saying? That's all that matters. So, but in terms of getting in our business, if you don't do the Rice experiments, you're not Mandela affected. You can still come to this conclusion from a common sense perspective. Say, why did they constantly get in our business? Why do they constantly want me worried about this? Even the way weather's presented, it's always risk of severe weather. They're the same lines of storms. I don't want to get into geoengineering and weather modification. I believe in most of that. Okay, and I don't. There's some of that where the truth community has been pushed too far to go astray, as we've been manipulated in every area. But it's, for the most part, in the summer, it's the same line of storms that came through in the 70s. And I assure you, what's his name? O'Brien, I think was his last name. The guy in the 70s, Action News, he had a skydiving accident. Jim O'Brien. He wasn't telling everybody that if you hear the buzzer to run into the basement, it's just a line of storms coming through. But now it's all severe weather. In the news, the weather people aren't in on it. They're minions that somehow, without them knowing, carry forth the wishes of reality to constantly turn the dial up on fear, anxiety. Okay, we've been through this. Why does it do this if we aren't creating or co-creating the reality? Of course we are. There's no other explanation. You have to find a way to understand this. This is it doesn't matter if my solutions are pathetic here about winter or whatever, because we're not there yet. We have to completely have a mini army, which will become a massive army of people saying, okay, they use me to actually create reality, like Leonardo DiCaprio used the person's dream in a dream in a dream, creating the dream in the person's mind, whatever. That people, millions of people, would be like, okay, I understand this now. With that power and knowing and not belief, knowing and power, and whoa, what am I going to do to glitch the matrix? What and if somebody's saying it's valid, what happens? Excuse me, what happens if we glitch it out? I don't know. I don't think it's going to completely glitch out like pulling the plug on something. Maybe it will be whatever we want it to be. It could be a reality that becomes, the Harry Potter ridiculous. That spell they cast against the boggart. It's ridiculous, but they say ridiculous, and it turns into something comical. That's a truth drop, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. The scariest thing to Ron Weasley is Professor Snape comes out all dark. That's a boggart molds itself like the Event Horizon ship into whatever scares you the most, and then he casts his spell. Says it's like ridiculous. It turns into like some clown or whatever. And it's funny. And just need to do that your consciousness onto this power structure. And I find myself with my little morning ritual with my ergone stuff and some neat amethyst type crystals that Brandy got for me. I find myself saying beyond when I say I do a yin and yang, that this reality must, if it tries to take, it must give to me. It must give to me. I believe that. I mean, I know that. Okay, and I know that, and it is giving to me incredibly. In terms of what our understanding is off the charts, just from 1 year ago, off the charts. But then also the last part of it is these clowns are becoming ridiculous. I picture it in my mind. Is that a way to? What if 100 million people did that every day? So these things, guys. One last thing to mention here. There have been different groups here that have tried to get together and do a collective meditation and things like that, and I'm all for that. It's not really what I do, but I guess what I'm saying, I don't think it is necessary to do the collective thoughts or the collective meditation, and I'm all for it. Any way to shoot your little missile against the Hogwarts dome, we can get millions and millions coming down. Look that up on YouTube. You'll understand the scene I'm talking about, Voldemort's attack on Hogwarts dome or whatever. But I think I've described it. But I don't think it's necessary to do it collective. I mean, as one, where create a giant fist through the top of the Hogwarts dome. Again, in the movie, it's just millions and millions of little hits all over the place. And I think if each individual doing their own thing, at some point, I really know there would be a collective amount the dam would break. I really, I'm trying to say I know. I believe that. I mean, I can't fool anybody. I can't fool myself. I mean, I'm not quite there on the knowing. I'm saying I believe that at this point. I'd like to know that. Can't. Sometimes the fake it to make it works. I mean, you can't say I know this, and eventually that can help in a way. Guy wants to be a drug dealer. You see the fake it to make it stuff. There's something about reality. It's stuff, a quantum effect, where he just starts dressing like one. He wants to be a cool guy like Carlito. Hey, Carlito. He's got a badass reputation. He wants to be like Carlito in Carlito's way. He just starts dressing a certain way, driving a certain car, hanging with a certain. He's just going to fake it, and all of a sudden he's in the middle of it, like a fake it to make it. There's a whole thing people fake it to make it, and it actually almost always works. And there's a quantum effect to it. Now, I don't suggest fake it to make it to become a drug dealer. You understand what I'm saying? There's a thing about that, a quantum effect to fake it to make it. So I don't know should I keep saying I know? Maybe. But you know what I'm saying. So I do believe at this point, that if we got, millions of people to take little pot shots against the Matrix Hogwarts dome, we could break it down. But this is the only way. It's not, wait for the sealed indictments, Matt. Stick to the plan. Really? Yeah, okay. Or let's use their court system to punish them. And their prison systems, their let's use their corporate prison systems to punish them. And their judges, they're all on their payroll. Yeah, let's do that. No, this is the only way. So just guys, jot down notes, and we'll do a video coming up soon. That once you come to a realization that it's your consciousness that creates the screen, how do you glitch it with things? And it would be things where the most basic ideas would be things where you remove yourself from the collective thought. Like, again, my horrible example of I don't subscribe to that being winter. December, January, and February is winter to me. So sorry guys if I'm all over the place. This is hard to do. These thoughts were big, got me up in the middle of the night, and I hope you stuck with me. There's a lot we can do with this going forward. Thanks.